I wanted to talk with you today about how women are different to men in business. And when I decided to niche into women by joining Fempire 2 years back, it wasn't a decision that I took lightly because I grew up in a family with a father who had three daughters, and he was incredibly passionate about women being equals to men, and he was always encouraging us to step up and bring out, to do whatever we wanted to do in life. And he always told us that women are just as capable and competent as men, and that should never ever be a barrier for us. And I certainly never experienced my gender to be a limitation for me growing up. And when I worked as a professional engineer for 15 years, I have to say I never ever experienced any discrimination of any kind in the engineering world or the science world. I started out, being a scientist and then evolved into the engineering world, and I never felt any discrimination of any kind. In fact, quite often as a woman in the engineering field, you're the only woman around the table in many situations, and men always seem to really appreciate and respect that I was there at the table with them. So when it came to starting my own business, niching into women was never on my radar. However, after being in business for a couple of years on my own, so when I left my engineering profession in my mid-30s, and stepped out to start my own business, I experienced a lot of struggles, and it took a lot longer than I thought, and it was harder than I thought, and I started to really doubt myself. And yeah, for someone like me who my whole life has been very confident, I've always, and I didn't typically struggle with self-confidence, yet here I was starting out in my own business, and because it was so hard, and my confidence was going down, and I did start to really doubt and question myself. I did have imposter syndrome, thinking, who am I to suddenly go from engineering to being a coach? Even though I'd done my certification and I was incredibly passionate about it, I had all the typical voices in my head that, as it turns out, most women do. And so I've learned over the last couple of years that there is a real difference between what men and women need when it comes to coaching. And so when I first met Marnie Lefebvre, who is the founder of Fempire, and I started working with her, she was my mentor. I remember she said at one point, I can see you have what it takes, but you're lacking and you've got no confidence at the moment. And I felt the tears come to my eyes because she was right. My confidence was at an all-time low when I met her. And she said to me, I can believe in you until you can believe in yourself. And that just made the world of difference. I needed her to believe in me so that I could step out and do my work as I wanted to do. And I just found that really interesting because I'd never struggled with self-confidence in my life. But there's something that happens when you step out of your comfort zone, and you do something new, then it triggers all our fears and insecurities, and especially when we're unsupported and alone. And I guess that's how I felt. Normally when you start a new job or a new career path, you have people and mentors to support you. However, as a business owner, stepping out on your own can feel really lonely. And I'd been struggling for 2 or 3 years on my own at that point when I met Marnie. And so it was just so refreshing to have someone say, I've got your back, I believe in you, you can do this. And that made all the difference, plus a bit of really good strategy and advice and business wisdom. And it made all the difference. Very quickly, I was able to step up and make my business a reality and start to thrive and finally hit profit and all that good stuff that we crave as business owners. But the point here is that my experience in coaching women over the last couple of years has been that it's a very common thing with women that we do struggle with self-confidence when it comes to running our own business. And we do a lot more so than men, I feel. We need a lot more nurturing, a lot more hand-holding, a lot more cheerleading in order to give us the confidence to step out and feel like we can really own it and embrace it. And that is not across the board, but I would say at least 85 to 90% of the women I coach, confidence is their number one obstacle. And that is my role, is to guide them, cheerlead them, mentor them, tell them I've got their back. Everything that Marnie did for me in the first 2 years, I do for my clients now, because that's what confidence makes the whole world of difference. And if you feel confident, everything starts flowing. And the other thing that women have is, of course, the motherly duties, which, even though I know men these days step up so much more in the home, and those domestic duties are shared a lot more between men and women, the lion's share of household work still falls on the shoulders of women, in my experience and my environment. And so trying to juggle the demands of a business and a family is really, really challenging. And so that's where I step in to support my clients as well, is managing that juggle between a business and a family. And the inevitable mother guilt that goes along with building a business when you have children who you feel at times you're neglecting because you're not spending as much time with them as you could be if you were a stay-at-home mum. But I guess having that empathy, working with women who have a family, and just letting them know it's okay to feel the guilt, and it's also not necessary because your children are doing just fine and you're doing great. And just for someone to give you permission to focus on your business, and to tell you you're being a good mum, even though you might not feel like you are. But though that's the kind of nurturing and nourishing and support that most women across the board need. I've had a few women who are just go-getters, and they're incredibly confident even in their business, particularly if it's been a continuation of what they did in the corporate world and they step out into something fairly similar in the business world, then their confidence is not such an issue. But for those women who are stepping into something completely new, as I did, going from engineering into coaching, it triggers all our fears and insecurities, and it's only natural that we're going to question ourselves and our abilities, and we're going to feel uncomfortable and insecure. And that's where business coaching can be amazing, because you have that cheerleader by your side, that mentor who believes believes in you until you can get there yourself. So I hope that was helpful, and certainly an interesting difference between the world of coaching women and men. And I hope this has given you a great perspective that's been useful. Thank you so much. Bye for now.